Hello, everybody. Thank you for pulling into the Palmetto Pitstop. My name is Adam. Once again, we're without Tony this week. But before we get into anything, make sure you check out his first episode of the Ladies First podcast covering the South Carolina Gamecocks women's basketball team. He made sure to do a good preview of their opening tip-off game against Michigan out in Vegas. Please check that out. That video is out now, and we are happy to announce another change. Don't feel a little weirded out if this channel pops up and you're expecting the Palmetto Pit Stop. We changed the name. The Palmetto Pit Stop podcast is still the same. The Ladies First podcast, that is obviously in its first episode, that's still the same. We have changed the channel name to the Northern South, as it will be... You can consider it a podcast network. We're going to be uploading all of our content here so we don't split our viewership. Some who want to come here for the basketball podcast, who want to come here for the NASCAR podcast. It'll all be here, much easier, much simpler for everybody if everything's on one channel. So we're not going anywhere, but the house got a little renovated. Again, please check out that first episode of Ladies First. And if you are coming here after discovering this channel, after the first episode of Ladies First, welcome. As I said, my name is Adam. This is a podcast based around NASCAR, and we had a doozy for the Xfinity 500 this past weekend at Martinsville. And it's a shame that so much of that race got covered up because of what happened after the checkered flag dropped. And in all likelihood, or to be more accurate, excuse me, the 500 laps of good racing were wiped out because of the last, say, 30. But we'll get into that. Ryan Blaney took home the win, his second straight year, punching his ticket to the Final Four with a win at Martinsville. And it seems that my playoff prediction still has legs with that win. Of course, 4 drivers eliminated and in controversial fashion, so let's get into it. Goodyear brought soft tires, and they showed up. I mean, I want to get into the good before I get into the bad, because that's going to really be at the back end. Martinsville was an incredible race, and that has gotten swept under the rug because of what happened, but Goodyear, they brought that tire to Bristol, and it didn't produce a good race. It produced a very boring, follow-the-leader type race. Everyone just watched Kyle Larson dominate the thing, and nothing really happened. But Martinsville, not the same. I mean, we saw the tires falling apart, and it was great. I mean, you could look at those cars after the race was over. You saw the tire wear staining the paint jobs. I mean, Kyle Larson's car, the white of it, right around the tire, the wheel wells, it was painted black almost. And the racing really backed up what we saw with the tire wear. We wanted tires that fell off and wore, and that's what we got. That's exactly what we got. And it was a great race because of it. Chase Elliott looked like for a while that he was going to be the one punching his ticket into the chase, or into the Final Four. Denny Hamlin had to work his way from the back after the rear of his car got destroyed in a practice crash. And he did a great job of it, but it just wasn't enough. Yet again, now in his 19th season, he will still have a 0 in the championship column. But the story of the day was Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney went into a similar situation as he did last year, a need to win to get in. And he did just that. He just tore through the field. He was getting a little physical with some of these guys. Moved Denny Hamlin out of the way. He made that one move where he kind of moved the 16 of Shane Van Gisbergen up into William Byron to get underneath him. Not real dirty racing there. Some of the drivers didn't like what he was doing, but he was taking no prisoners. He knew what he had to do. Can hardly fault a man for racing like that. And it made it exciting. So, big congrats to Ryan Blaney there. Just a shame that all of that was buried. So, with one guy that I thought was a lock this weekend to move on to the championship for a consecutive visit. Christopher Bell. I don't think there was a driver who shot himself in the foot more than Christopher Bell. He just didn't qualify well, spun, and he went a lap down. Wasn't good on pits, and he was a lap down for most of the race. Just not a factor at all, and he had to rely on cars passing William Byron. And that just never ended up happening. So we talked about, I want to talk more about Ryan Blaney and just how clutch this guy is. He did, like I said, he was in this exact situation last year. He went into Martinsville, went out, won that race. And again, William Byron in that race too had to fight to keep his head above water. This year, Ryan Blaney, it looked like there were cars much better than him. At least at first. Because Chase Elliott, he got his first stage win since Daytona. And then towards the end, it was Ryan Blaney. Once he started taking names and pushing people out of the way, I believe he passed like 9 cars in 70 laps, which is really saying something for Martinsville, especially this new version of Martinsville. I don't know how he does it, but it's incredible what we saw him do. We had Brad Keselowski trying to play a little playoff spoiler as he won stage 2, and he really came into play a little later as well. But Ryan Blaney, just fantastic drive by him. He's in a very similar stage where he's going to go into Phoenix with a good chance, and I believe he is the odds-on favorite to win the race and the championship next week. Or this Sunday, I should say. So there's really no surprise if he's going to go out and do it again. He'd be the first back-to-back winner in this new playoff system. There hasn't been a back-to-back champion since Jimmy Johnson when he did this 5-peat, and NASCAR kind of made sure that repeats would never happen again, but they could end up happening this year. And Ryan Blaney is really establishing himself as a real face of the sport, and it's exactly what NASCAR needs. NASCAR has been lacking in star power. They don't know how to market their guys. They've had all of these brand deals like Legos, and they just announced a DLC that's available in Forza Motorsport that puts the new gen Fords, Toyotas, and Chevys into the game, whatever current Forza Motorsport is out right now. And none of them are licensed, so they're just blank cars. And I feel like that's a real missed opportunity to get some of your star power in there. They did a crossover with Gran Turismo, and I think it was Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson was in it, maybe Chase Elliott. I would have to look it up, but they put their guys in the game. They put their cars in the game. And it's a real missed opportunity to not put race car drivers in a racing game where you could get some eyes on your sport. You have people who will latch onto a driver because of their car. You hear stories about it all the time of people who they will support a driver because their car looks nice. I mean, you have people who are going to be heading to Florence at the end of November to go watch Dale Jr. in a late model car just because he has the 8 Budweiser again. So, missed opportunities there. Missed opportunities all around for NASCAR and marketing their drivers and their stars. But Ryan Blaney, he really is one. He's not the most dominant guy week in and week out, but he kind of wins. He's playing the system to his advantage. That's what Penske does. They have 2 drivers in the Final 4. And they're both guys. They've won the last 2 championships. So Joey Logano could end up being a 3-time champion. And Ryan Blaney could be a 2-time champion back-to-back years. But let's get on to the fun stuff, shall we? So, at the end of the race, with roughly about 30 laps to go, William Byron was hemorrhaging spots. And it looked like, for sure, Christopher Bell was going to be able to just ride around and get his way into the playoffs. Into the Final 4. That is when William Byron had the 3 of Austin Dillon and the 1 of Ross Chastain behind him. 2 Chevy drivers, and of course Hendrick Motorsports has a Chevy, is a Chevy brand from now until forever. The 2 most aggressive drivers in the field parked their cars behind William Byron and just kind of sat there. For 30 laps, they rode around in circles when they clearly had faster cars, and they did nothing. Radio communications came out that Austin Dillon's spotter, I believe, one of Austin Dillon's team members on the radio, was telling him the point situation, and then it was said, the 1 knows the deal, right? Or something along those lines. Essentially meaning Chevrolet was giving team orders to not pass William Byron, because if William Byron gets passed, it's 2 Fords and 2 Toyotas in the championship 4. There's no Chevrolet. And as we got to about 5 laps ago, there was radio chatter with the 23 of Bubba Wallace, where they let him know the point situation, that Bell needs a spot. He needs 1 point. And then Bubba responds with something along the lines of something's off with his car, something might be broken. I think he said he had a flat tire. And he starts bleeding spots. He goes up into the concrete and just kind of falls back over the course of 5 laps. And on the final turn of the race, William Byron, he's not getting past. So 2 guys who are just blocking behind him, Brad Keselowski, as I mentioned him earlier. Brad Keselowski is trying to get past him, but he has 2 guys. And he obviously, you don't want to just ram guys out of your way, but Brad Keselowski can't get through them to get to the 16 of William Byron. Get to the 24 of William Byron. I don't know why I said 16. He can't get to the bumper of William Byron, so he's stuck. William Byron essentially drives around with a blocking pack like it's a super speedway on Martinsville, where it's already hard to pass. Anyway, Bubba Wallace falls back. Christopher Bell jumps down in front of him in the final turn, overdrives the corner, and kind of cuts up in front of Bubba Wallace, hits the wall, and instead of trying to slow way down, and either getting passed by somebody or causing a crash, he guns it, rides the wall, and finishes ahead of Bubba Wallace. Christopher Bell gets the point. He advances to the championship 4. William Byron is out. Winners are, with Ryan Blaney winning, the championship 4 was Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, Tyler Reddick, and Christopher Bell. And then NASCAR had to review the finish. Because of the wall ride, it is now a rule in NASCAR's rule book that you can't ride the wall. They outlawed it. I don't know the exact terminology. I would have to look it up, but it prohibits riding the wall to gain an advantage. Christopher Bell really sold on this because he could have not overdrove the corner. Bubba was already slowing way down. And he, again, just one last time, shoots himself in the foot, gets into the fence, and instead of letting out of the gas and trying to get off the wall, he guns it, finishes the race, and now NASCAR's looking at it. It takes about 30 minutes, and NASCAR decides you rode the wall to try to gain an advantage that is illegal. You are going to the tail end of your lap. William Byron gets into the Final 4. I mean, what are we doing? What really is NASCAR doing? We have team orders from manufacturers now that are saying to just not race for a percentage of the race. That very clearly violates NASCAR's 100% rule, saying that every driver on the track has to be going 100% at all times to gain the best finish that they can. And it was very clear that the 1 and the 3 were not doing that because they were not passing William Byron when they easily could have. Ross Chastain could have ran around him on the outside, and he didn't. And then Bubba Wallace, assuming that he actually didn't have a tire going down, which I don't think he did, and the suspensions have kind of proved this, that it was him slowing down to try to give it to Christopher Bell. 100% race manipulation. Those guys, 3 drivers, were not going at it as hard as they could to try to get their best finish. And I don't know how it could be any worse for NASCAR. There is not one person on Twitter, on social media, on anywhere that liked what they saw. They ruined a great race again. They took away a great race again from the fans. This race manipulation doesn't happen. Fans are excited about this. They are praising Blaney. I'm sure there's a section of them who's throwing their hands in the air. Woohoo. Denny Hamlin's eliminated, whatever. But you have 2 drivers of your final 4 that were put in because of officials. Joey Logano shouldn't, well, I shouldn't say shouldn't because that's on Alex Bowman for not meeting minimum weight. But you have Joey Logano, who got in because Alex Bowman got disqualified at the Roval, and then he won at Vegas. And now you have William Byron, who got in because of a partial wall ride when both parties were benefiting from race manipulation. And let's call it what it is. It is race manipulation. It's cheating. You are not going 100%. And the discipline that these drivers are facing is pathetic because they're not facing any discipline. The drivers' teams are, and the drivers there's monetary penalties and there's points penalties. That I believe the spotters, crew chiefs, and race managers, ? I think that's the title that they're called, are all suspended for the last race of the season. Bubba Wallace, Ross Chastain, and Austin Dillon got 50 points penalties, which who cares? They're not in the playoffs. They got dropped from like 18th to 19th, I think was Bubba. Austin Dillon, I don't even think lost a spot. He's way back there in the 30s. So, okay, who cares? The teams were fined $100,000 each, I believe. And again, I say, who cares? Because this was Chevrolet giving the orders. I don't know if what happened with Toyota. I don't know if that's like a just trying, because not Bubba Wallace specifically, but 2311 has a tech partnership with, or a technical alliance with Joe Gibbs Racing. So maybe they thought, we'll scratch your back if, try to get Christopher Bell into the Final Four, and, you'll help us out in the future. But Chevrolet was damning evidence. There was a point when Ryan Blaney was going near the 16 of Shane Van Gisbergen, and his spotter said, hey, remember what the 12 did to you? That one's from Chevrolet. That came from Chevrolet. So these manufacturers are making this call to try and get these guys knocked out of the playoffs or manipulate the race just so they have their representation. And I don't think they understand that this makes them look terrible because they have a Chevrolet in the Final Four and nobody wants him there. He's not even the most deserving Chevrolet. He wasn't even the most deserving Hendrick teammate. He wasn't the most deserving anything. William Byron is there because he had a roadblock behind him. It should have been this system that rewards winning or says it rewards winning. Kyle Larson was the winningest driver all year, double the amount of wins that any other driver had, is not fighting for a championship. Kyle Larson was the best driver all year. Kyle Larson missed an entire race and lost the regular season championship by 1 point. Kyle Larson won both cutoff races before Martinsville. Kyle Larson should be the champ in the championship four. He should be fighting for a championship. But instead it's William Byron, because Hendrick and Chevrolet created a wall for him that nobody could get past. You can punt one car, you can move them out of the way. You can't move two if they're going to be holding hands through the turns like that. And it is absolutely disgusting, NASCAR's reaction to the fans' reaction. NASCAR penalized, I mentioned all the penalties they gave, and it's a slap on the wrist. Hendrick, Joe Gibbs, Trackhouse, RCR, maybe not RCR, and Hendrick didn't get penalized, but Joe Gibbs and Trackhouse have the money. Why am I keep saying Joe Gibbs? It's not Joe Gibbs. It is Trackhouse. Oh, yes, it is. It's 2311. Sorry. 2311, Trackhouse, and RCR all got hit with that monetary penalty. It might hurt RCR. The other two, it doesn't matter. This is not a strong enough message to prevent this from happening. This is a strong enough message to make everybody who watches your sport hate your sport. There is a reason why fans have left this sport, and it's because you have made the championship worthless. You have made it a gimmick. You have made it worth nothing. Brad Keselowski, drivers who have won championships in your sport hate the way you decide champions. And Elton Sawyer can keep saying they like what they're seeing with the playoffs and that it delivers. It doesn't deliver. It gets you views on social media and on YouTube because people are trying to tell you how stupid it is. I don't get how you can keep your head in the sand every single week when people talk about how stupid this playoff system is. Your sport is dying because you have a stupid system. People talk about NASCAR fans being too caught up in history, the good old days, nostalgia. That is because the racing was good back then. The cars looked good. The drivers were good. The format was good. I don't care about a playoff system or a postseason in racing because postseason shouldn't exist in motorsports. But the chase was light years better than this. At least you had 10 races to piece together a season. Now it's three race seasons and then a single race season. What is the point of the 36 races? You're not getting the best drivers. You're not getting the best out of your drivers. You're making your drivers look like a joke. Kyle Larson. How are you leaving Kyle Larson out of a shot for a championship? How are you leaving Christopher Bell and Chase Elliott? 3 of the best guys this season are not fighting for a championship. The final 4, the 4 who got eliminated, is a better matchup. Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, and Denny Hamlin, that would be a fantastic final 4. If that is your final 4, there's a worthy champion somewhere in there. Ryan Blaney and Joey Logano, along with the guys at Penske, play this system like a fiddle. The Fords, we were wondering where they were the first third of this season, and now they have 2 cars in the championship 4 because they just won at the right time. We're never going to see dominance like we saw with Gordon in 98 or Stewart or Johnson because it just doesn't exist. We're not going to see Earnhardt's again. You don't give them the chance to exist. And I know you could say what you want about parity, but there's a reason why superstars are superstars. You can hate Patrick Mahomes. You can hate Aaron Judge. You can hate Derek Jeter. You can hate Tom Brady. People know them. People respect what they've done because they won a lot. They are not the same. How dumb would it be if Aaron Judge was only allowed to hit 30 home runs a season because the rest of the league can't keep up with him hitting 50 every year? That sounds really boring, doesn't it? How would it feel if every good team had to just give away their best players, give away what made them good? Hendrick, I'm not a Hendrick fan. I usually will root against Hendrick. But the reason they have won so many championships is because they know how to build cars. At least back in the Gen 4 days, in the Gen 5 days and all that, they knew how to get the very most out of their cars, and that's what gave them these advantages. Jimmy Johnson knew how to play the system too. Jimmy Johnson and Chad Knaus. They destroyed the chase because they just knew how to make it work. And that's all that this playoff system is. You have taken away your superstars with this car because everything is out even playing field and no one can get a leg up on each other. And when guys are dominant, it doesn't matter because they could get eliminated anyway. Why was Kevin Harvick not the championship winner in 2020? Why is Kyle Larson not fighting for a championship? What did he do all season that warranted him not fighting for a championship this Sunday? Because he had 2 races that were bad? What? He had 2 bad races? Not even bad. He finished outside the top 10. Like, he still got top 15s. But because he had 2 top 15s, he's not fighting for a championship anymore? What is the logic? These playoffs they're so out of place. And I'm sick and tired of people trying to force their stick and ball comparisons into NASCAR. NASCAR is not a stick and ball sport. You don't have you could pull up the 2007 Patriots. Oh, well, the Patriots were 17-0, won their playoff games, almost went 19-0, lost to an underdog Giants who were not the best team all year. Cool. Giants still had to win games. Giants had to make the playoffs. Giants had to win in the playoffs. Also, football is not racing. Racing is not football. You are playing one team at a time in football. You play all other 35 teams every single week in NASCAR over 36 weeks. If you beat them every single week, then you're better than them, and you should have a better chance at the championship if you are better than them. NASCAR has gotten so hung up on these postseason moments, but they are boring. They're stupid. They are chaotic, but they're manufactured. Yeah, you had Ross Chastain's wall ride in 2022. What is another good, memorable moment of the playoffs? Is there any good, memorable moment in the playoffs? Other than the wall ride that you have outlawed, and you have now penalized a driver for attempting because of the format that you have instilled in this stupid way. The big thing that I've heard is that NASCAR wants their Game 7 moments. But why are we skipping the way there? There's a reason why 1994 finale Was it 1994? Might have been 1992. I think it was 1992. Whatever race had that Alan Kulwicki won, it might have been 1994. Let me see this. The 1992 finale. The 1992 finale is considered one of the, if not the greatest race of all time. And it is because he had a 6-way championship battle going into the final race of the season. You also had the last race for Richard Petty. You had the first race for Jeff Gordon. There was natural energy there. There was natural excitement. Where is that excitement naturally in NASCAR? It's nowhere to be found. It's because this playoff system is fake. It's manufactured. It's synthetic. It doesn't matter. You had a great race at Homestead last week because it was a good race and had a great finish. That run from Tyler Reddick around the outside, it wasn't cool because he was going to the playoffs, to the Final Four. Yeah, it kind of added to it. It was cool because it was a cool move to watch him ride half an inch from the fence around Ryan Blaney and pass 2 cars on the last lap. And then this last week, this is what you want out of your sport? You want a blockade of same OEMs blocking for each other? You want a guy to wall his car just so he can make it because he had a bad day? Are you serious? You look at that and you go, yeah, more of that, please. Where is the legitimacy in your sport? Where is your brain? How can you look in the eyes of your fans and the drivers and the teams, the people who work so hard to get there? How do you look at them and say, this is good for our sport? It's stupid, it's dumb, it's awful, it's embarrassing. There is a reason why NASCAR was once the fastest growing sport in America. There was a boom in the 90s and early thousands because there was star power. There was a legitimate champion. Their races were exciting. Every single week they were great. And now you have a car that nobody likes. This was your first good short track since Richmond? And Richmond, you also had a controversial finish because of your format. And nobody liked the end of Richmond. And there's still debated to this day that the end of Richmond is because of this playoff system. And it was stupid. Was Austin Dillon right to do that? What choice did he have? He shouldn't have. He shouldn't have done what he did. And it's a good thing that he didn't get into the playoffs because of it. But you and the system you put in place did that. It's not because Austin Dillon just wants to wreck people. He's aggressive, sure. But he wouldn't have done that if a win doesn't put him into the playoffs. He would have been, okay, we had it. That caution came out. Whatever. That's just how this race is going to be. We'll take home second place. I don't get how NASCAR can keep sticking their head in the sand. And it's not even though they're not hearing us, it's that they're ignoring us. Mike Ford, who I believe is the president of fan engagement, I think that's his title for NASCAR. Denny Hamlin spoke with him about how poorly the playoffs are being viewed. And he said, oh, those are all bots. Ignore them. What? Why is that your response to criticism? You avoid the question entirely. You don't say anything about it. You just say they're bots. What? Your fans, the people who keep you in business are bots because they hate what you've done to their sport. Make it make sense, please. I don't understand how teams like this, or people like this, for the sport are just so out of touch. The fans have been so open about wanting a full point season back. They want NASCAR the way it used to be because NASCAR was good. This is not good. There's good racing, sure, but your sport, it's not serious. No one takes NASCAR serious outside of NASCAR fans. You don't have NFL fans, not seriously anyway, you have some jokesters, but when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl this past year, no one said, oh, well, under a different format, they would have won it like this. If they played under, I don't know, Premier League rules or the way hockey is played and how that works, this is how they'd be champions in these. No one does that because it makes sense how their champion is decided. In baseball, no one questions, oh, well, the Yankees made it to the playoffs, or they made it to the World Series, but under this set of rules, they wouldn't have. No one does it because it makes sense how their champions are crowned. Formula One is still a season-long championship. One of the biggest racing series in the world, even though it's not getting the American viewership quite like how I'm sure that the rest of the world, or they're not getting the American viewership in comparison to the rest of the world's viewership. They're still getting a lot of money. They're still getting a lot of viewership. And their sport is legit. Their point system makes sense. I just don't know how NASCAR can see themselves as anything more than a joke. No one else does. Their fans certainly don't think they're serious. Their drivers don't think they're serious. People outside of the sport don't think you're serious. And you can't even say you're doing this for views because you have lost millions of fans. There used to be, I think it was like when I started racing, or excuse me, I'm getting ahead of myself. When I started watching racing, I think NASCAR was getting about 7 million fans per week. 7 million viewers per week, and they sold out entire tracks. Full stadiums, full seating, sold out every week. And now you have to take away seating. You have lost more than half of your audience. Since I've been watching for 20 years, and you have lost over half your audience because of a stupid system that doesn't reward racing. It rewards chaos. We see it every single week that people, you put them in this situation. Yeah, this is how you win a championship. Okay, I'm going to win a championship like that. You don't get rewarded for clean racing. You get rewarded for racing like a moron. Mark Martin, one of the greatest drivers to ever drive for your sport, he called Sunday a shit show because it was. You made it this way, and you have to fix it or they're not going to be there much longer. Yeah, you signed a good media rights deal. Cool. You're still going to lose fans because who is going to start watching? If your sport is seen as stupid by your own fans who watch it and love your sport, why would a new fan come in if the current fans say it's dumb? It doesn't make any sense to keep ignoring what people are telling you. If somebody tells you, hey, if one guy tells you, hey, you might have had too much to drink, you could probably get away with saying, what does he know? But if everyone is saying you're drunk, it might be time to sit down. And that's what's happening. Your drivers hate this system. The teams hate this system. The fans hate this system. Everybody hates it but you. And you are going to die from your stubbornness if you don't give the fans what they want. Yeah, there's momentary entertainment in 10 overtimes, but is that good for the sport? No. Yeah, there's momentary entertainment in Christopher Bell riding the wall around Bubba Wallace, but after he finishes a race, it's like, why did he have to do that? You have your manufacturers manipulating the race and cheating. It's cheating. Call it as it is. It is cheating. You have ruined your sport because you're not even penalizing it. You are what you have given these teams, these penalties. It's a slap on the wrist. Suspend people. Dock points, disqualify people. Stand up for yourself and grow a backbone. And stop just letting this shit happen. It's embarrassing that this is going to continue to happen because you don't know how to put your foot down. You have lost control of your own sport because of the mess that you've made, and you refuse to fix it. You know how to fix it. It is there for you on a silver platter, and you refuse to take your chance to fix it. Remove the playoffs. That's one rule. One change of the rules. You did it in 2004. Matt Kenseth, the humanity had a dominant season, and Roger Penske cried and bitched about it. And now we have this, an embarrassment, a shell of what the sport used to be. You have the blueprint on how to get your fans back. Do you want to keep removing grandstands? Martinsville was looking pretty bad. Because why is anybody going to show up to see it? It's not... who cares about it? It's worthless. It is a worthless cup. It is a worthless championship. Who looks at this system and says this is how a legitimate champion wins? It's stupid and it's garbage. You've ruined everything that this sport has built up. Swallow your pride and fix it. It is so annoying to root for a sport that constantly wants to fail. The reason why people get upset and the reason why so many people are complaining is because they love NASCAR. I love NASCAR. I want to watch every single Sunday. I want to be nowhere else but on my couch watching NASCAR, talking to my family about NASCAR, talking to friends about NASCAR, talking to other race fans about NASCAR. I want to get more people into NASCAR, but how can I sell them on a sport that doesn't take itself seriously? The NFL prides itself on being this monolith, this giant of some of the best athletes on the planet. Baseball, the same thing, the MLB. Best athletes on the planet. Some of the best hitters, the pitchers, everything. It's the best they put out there. And the NASCAR wants to be entertainment? Or what are you doing? It was entertaining. The 90s were fantastic. The early 2000s were fantastic. And you've ruined your sport in pursuit of what? Game 7 moments? Would it have been... We're skipping so many steps. You want Game 7, you're ignoring Games 1 through 6. How fun would it be if people watched Game 1 of the World Series this year, watched the Dodgers win, and then the next game was Game 7 and it was tied at 3? What sense does that make? You are missing what goes on. And if drivers are too good to need Game 7 moments, then you just reward them for being so dominant. How many Game 7s did Michael Jordan play in? Still considered the greatest of all time. And then you have the number 2 with LeBron. He had that comeback, that 3-1 comeback in Game 7. It didn't just start at Game 7. It got there because they fought back. How exciting would it have been if Tyler Reddick was leading this entire season and then he flips at Vegas and all of a sudden the championship is up in the air? You have a format. You have a car that is getting better. I still think it's ugly, but people like it. I'm starting to come around to it in parts too, but you are just not taking it seriously enough for new fans to join and enjoy your sport. And I don't know what it is going to take. If you can't see what happened this past weekend as the breaking point, nothing ever is going to change and your sport is going to die. No one is going to want to watch this. No one wants to watch this now. You'll get a few eyes on it on social media, but they're not going to tune in every week. Even Ross Chastain, his wall ride didn't amount to any spike in the viewing, in viewership. Sure, you had viral moments all season. You had Kansas, you had Atlanta. The most people are talking about your sport is your controversies, how bad you are at doing your job. How is that what you want to present to fans, to networks, to investors? Yeah, we want you to get into our sport. This is what it is. Are you proud of that? It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. At what point do you step in and say enough is enough? We're done with this stupid gimmick. Put back the regular season or the full season points. That's all a racing season should be, is full season points. You're not football. You're not a stick and ball sport. Stop pretending like you are. Anyway, now that that's out of the way, we can finally move on. It is championship weekend in Phoenix, and this is how we decide champions in this sport because it's totally the best way to go about it. The 4 eliminated, as I mentioned, which should have been, there would have been a much better championship 4. The 4 eliminated were Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell, and Kyle Larson. Meaning the 4 remaining at Phoenix: Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, William Byron, and Tyler Reddick. I mean, what is there to say? Phoenix is a terrible track in this car. It doesn't produce exciting racing. You're going to see him fan out for a few times on the restarts, and then that's going to be it. I know it was for money. I don't know why I'm pretending like it was for anything else, but Phoenix is just not a good track. It's not a good finale, especially not a good finale. You could put the finale just about anywhere else, and I would understand why you would instead of Phoenix. I want Phoenix to be good. I want it to be so bad. I loved Phoenix. I loved whenever they would go there in the older cars. It was exciting racing. I loved the COT era at Phoenix. But in this current car, it's just not good racing. However, my final champion is still standing tall and doing so very similar to last year. I called it back in, what was that? That was just after Darlington, where I said, yeah, I'm going to pick Ryan Blaney to go back-to-back. I think he is, and I think he could, and I think he will. Ryan Blaney's done it before. He's very clearly very clutch. I don't know if he'll win the race next Sunday. He didn't need to last year. But pattern would suggest that you do have to win. So I'll also make Ryan Blaney my prediction to win this weekend. I'll only do one because I feel like it'd be cheating if I chose 3. I could just choose 3 drivers and then, But I did get another one on my scorecard last week for predicting Ryan Blaney would win the race. What else is there to say? NASCAR. You know what needs to be done. And as we pull on into the final turn, what I want to do today is to prevent any race manipulation and cheating from ever happening again. What would I have done if I was in charge of disciplinary action in NASCAR and I had this particular case in front of me on Sunday? You suspend all the drivers who participated in race manipulation for one race. Bubba Wallace, Austin Dillon, And Ross Chastain, you're not racing Phoenix next week. Your season's over. William Byron and Christopher Bell, you have benefited from race manipulation. Christopher Bell, he's keeping the same penalty. I think that was the right call to put him on the tail end of his lap. That stays the same. William Byron, the beneficiary of race manipulation, he's out. Put him behind, put him tail end of the lead lap, or actually DQ him from the race. You know what? Since Bubba Wallace was also a part of that race manipulation, DQ Bell. DQ Bell, DQ Byron. Your races don't count anymore. And because Chevrolet gave those orders, Kyle Larson isn't getting in either. You got to give it... Who's left? Who's Bell, Larson, Byron? Give it to Hamlin. Hamlin's the only guy. Put him in the Final Four. I don't care. You don't put... If you want to make sure that manufacturers don't manipulate your sport ever again, I know you don't want to have bad blood. You've been dying for a fourth manufacturer to come into your sport, but if you don't put your foot down, this is going to keep happening. Suspend Bubba Wallace, suspend Austin Dillon, suspend Ross Chastain a race. They're not racing. Their season's done. You DQ William Byron. You DQ Christopher Bell. You benefited from this. Too bad. Didn't matter anyway. And then Denny Hamlin gets the jump because you don't want Chevrolet to have benefited in any way. Because if you put Byron out, you're just putting Larson in. Or you put Chase Elliott in and say he's the highest finishing Chevrolet. That's not fair. Or highest finishing playoff member remaining. That's not fair. Chevrolet doesn't care. They just want a Chevrolet in the show. They don't care which one. If Larson won, if Larson was leading or Elliott was leading in the last 30 laps, it would not have mattered if William Byron was where he was. They just wanted a Chevrolet in the show, and that's how you deal with that. You put your foot down, you grow a backbone, and you discipline people when they break the rules. It's what I can't stand about modern sports, is that no one gets disciplined. How can a team cheat their way to championships and you just let it happen? I'll never understand. Why has Michigan not had their championship stripped from them? Why have the Astros and the Red Sox not have their championship stripped from them? These commissioners, these CEOs, the heads of these sports need to learn that if you are the one in charge, you need to sometimes remind people what happens when you break the rules that are in place. And if you are going to manipulate races, which they have, which NASCAR drivers have cheated in Martinsville, what happens when drivers cheat in racing? They are often disqualified or suspended or have their results taken away. We've seen it. Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch at Pocono a few years back. Denny Hamlin won the race. Kyle Busch was in second. Their cars were illegal. They're disqualified. Chase Elliott in third place got the win. Never led a lap that race. Still got it. Seems weird, sure. Seems a little unfair. Maybe you shouldn't have cheated. Put your foot down. Fix this format. And let's stop pretending like this playoff format is anything anybody ever wanted. Because it's not. And if you've made it this far, thank you very much for listening. I hope NASCAR can listen to the fans. I hope the fans can keep letting NASCAR know how terrible this format is and how terrible the state of the sport is. I want to see Daytona filled up again. I want to see Darlington filled again. I want to see Martinsville, Bristol. You know how sad it is having seen the Coliseum that Bristol used to be and comparing it to now? It's depressing. Fix your sport, NASCAR. Thank you for pulling on into the Palmetto and Pit Stop. We'll see you next week after the championship. We will have a brand new, maybe a repeat championship winner in 2024. Thank you once again, and we will see you next time.